please.
Order designating Bancorp South as the City of Jackson Public Funds Depository for 2015 and 2016 and accepting the bid of Bancorp South to provide banking services for 2015 and 2016 and designating Trustmark, Bank Plus, and Liberty Bank as public funds depositories for 2015 and 2016 for investment only and authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents related thereto.
So moved.
Second. So it's been moved and probably seconded. Any questions or comments? Councilor Barrett-Small.
I was hoping that we would put this into a committee so that it can be completely analyzed.
Let's kind of air out some of our concerns at this point so that we can get some preliminary questions answered. Then administration can respond to some of those. We can talk about those things, right now while we got everybody here.
Okay. Does anybody have questions?
Mr. Mayor, would you comment on, I know we have a time-sensitive situation here with this item. Could you comment on where we are with, or what it takes to implement this process?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just kind of talk about the time sensitivity, and then I'll allow Ms. Trivia Jones to talk a little bit further about what, I guess, the labor intensiveness of this. We want to be able to go on and make this happen as soon as possible. As we go into the new year, we want to have this done so that it takes a lot of work as we make this transfer. The other part has to do with the fact that there is a billing component to the Siemens contract, and we don't want to throw off the timing of being able to bring on billing, as well as what that will look like in terms of us starting to realize savings through the Siemens contract, if that is possible. So that, along with some other things that I'm sure Ms. Jones can further talk about in terms of the time sensitivity and why we would like to move further. But before she does, I did want to say that the bid tabulation is a part of the packet. I know that I've received some calls in terms of concern about this, and I wanted to be said as publicly as can be said that this was done through a bid process. The bid, you will find that that the bank that has been chosen was chosen based on where they came in terms of their bid, almost $20,000 less. It is not only looked at as the lowest bid, but it is also the best bid. And personally, I would much rather us be comfortable with having gone through a legal above board process that takes us out of the picture when it comes to any kind of questions about how this was done or any of that. I only bring that up because those kinds of things have been presented to me over the last 24 hours, and we don't want to be in a situation where people can, or the company who is here, who's on the agenda, can question whether or not we did the right thing based on how this process was carried out. So with that being said, Ms. Jones.
Trivia Jones, Director of Administration. As far as switching over banks, as the mayor mentioned, Trustmark has had our business for several years, actually several decades. And so as a part of changing over to a new bank, there are several things that have to be done. They include ordering checks, setting up the new accounts. We have to get our lockbox moved over because currently Trustmark handles our lockbox for our water billing. So all of that would have to be set up, and there are some software issues that have to be dealt with. We have online bill payments that we do, ACH transfers. All of those things will have to be set up. And we also have to do new signature cards for those that have signing privileges on our accounts. We also have petty cash, workers' comp that is held right now at Trustmark. They'll be transferred over to Bancorp South. we have to get our tax payment system logins because we do those as electronic payments. So there's a lot of behind the scenes work that has to be done. And so my concern, and I brought it to the mayor and I also mentioned it to our president, is that if we push this to committee and bring it back to council at the end of the year, that's going to push us into New Year's getting everything set up, and that may delay, you know, some of our regular business in doing that. And we'll also have to get the accounts that at Trustmark that will no longer be used closed.
Okay. Mr. Vice President?
Yeah, this is a tough situation because I think we sort of made it clear that we're not the sort of council where anything involving large sums of money you can present to us on Monday and get us to approve on Tuesday, and that's is somewhat how we feel. But at the same time, you are dealing with a bid process, and this is one of the most reputable banks in town. So, you know, I would like to be able to get this done as quickly as possible, and I'm comfortable voting on this tonight. But if it's what is other people's feelings about trying to see if we can push this until next week's meeting, or
Ms. Baird?
I'm not comfortable voting for it tonight. I think we need much more analysis and have time to really sink our teeth into this. This is one of the largest financial transactions that take place across this council desk, and I don't think it can be minimized in any way. I don't see any problem at all with holding this until we can convene a budget meeting, which you and I talked about. And I don't think that the bank that holds this account now would pull the rug out from under us overnight. But I do think it requires a more deliberation than having it presented on Friday and for a vote on Tuesday.
Okay, well, let me ask this question. Why do we put the bid, when do we put the bid out for this?
We put is our treasurer here?
Because what I'm kind of feeling is that, did we wait late in the year to do something at the end? Because I see it says we received bids on December the 9th. You know, so my question is, why didn't we knew this was coming up for the last 2 years. You know, why didn't we bring this forward before now? Because it's like our backs against the wall. We have to vote on it now because you have to implement the changes you need to implement by the 30th of December. And we're talking about, you know, moving a very large amount of money from one bank to another. And I don't think it's about the contractor or the person who won the bid. I think it's more about the process and how did we get so late in the game of going through the process.
Currently, the bid is Felicia Young, Treasurer, City of Jackson, Department of Administration. The bid, this is my second one participating in, and the bid is generally handled in the month of December, and Trustmark has always won the bid, so we've never had to face this situation before. So that's, you know, why we at this point where we are now.
Mr. Vice President. Ms. Tillman.
You say it's in the past it's been tradition that the bid go out
In December, in the month of December.
in the month of December.
Mm-hmm.
Now, being tradition and being right, you can change that, right?
Yes, sir. In the future, we can.
Now, you all been around a little while. We complain about bringing us something one week and want us to bid it in 2 or 3 seconds and sign off on it. That's not fair to this council. Is it?
Ms. Tillman, I think what in defense of this department, I guess it's really not defense. What they've been doing, of course, is what has traditionally been done. I would, you know, I'm not certain, and I go out on a limb. I don't know if it would be safe to say that had Trustmark won the bid, and this situation that we're facing, there will be no conversation, I don't think, about whether or not it should go into committee. I think we would say fine, no big deal, but with the amount of things that have to transpire as a result of that, then that's why we're asking for that. You're absolutely right. The council has expressed their concern about things coming before you all, expressing things coming before you, especially when there are large ticket items. I think that you should take note that we have put in a process that allows us to brief you early. Just even as early as Monday, there were things that came by way of briefing that you may not see on the agenda for another 2 months, but it's our way of attempting to get ahead of that and let you know what's coming around the bend. There is an aggressive effort to address that concern, and that's an effort that we take seriously. This particular case, it is unique. It is not anything that we anticipate having to do often, bringing big ticket items before you to have vetted. I don't think that you will see us having any qualms with that. Tonight we have the CDM item that's on, and that's been in committee twice, and so I don't think you'll see us having any issues with doing that in the future. This is just one item where we're asking for the council to consider this exception. While it is a transaction, I think yesterday when this item came up during work session, if you recall, there really weren't any concerns. No one voiced them, and I asked that we come back to revisit item number 4 because I believe that it was a big enough deal for us to kind of talk through. At that time, most of the concerns that came across the council had to do with community engagement and the business practices of this institution. We're more than willing to listen to any of the questions that you may have in terms of vetting this. Ultimately, the decision is yours, but what we would ask is that you consider this time sensitivity.
Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. I think part of there are some, I think Council Lady Barrett Simone raised a question that I hadn't thought of as we were literally coming into the meeting. Are the calculations for the bid, is the interest calculation, are we strictly dealing with one interest rate, or are there any variable rates, or how is that being done?
We're strictly dealing with the fixed interest rate currently.
Okay.
Because I think one of the other questions is, with the order itself, is doing a lot of things in one order. It's managing the processes that are going to Trustmark Bank plus Liberty Bank and Bank Fort South, inside of one order, and not dealing with them separately, but also the time piece of it. If it's our practice to move, what's the total amount of money that this contract moves from one bank to another?
Currently, I ran the cash report today. It was about $76 million.
Right.
How much?
Somebody's on the light back there. I think that's Stephanie. Could
6.5
you
million.
cut the light back on,
Say
please?
that again, please, for the
You're
record.
talking to Mike.
$76.5 million.
Right. So just so the
But
public
that's why this is a
right,
big
so,
issue
right,
for
so that's
us.
why,
I
just so
want
the public can
to
understand. I'm reading it. I just wanted somebody else to say it. This is $76 million that we're putting it from one bank to another bank, but could fluctuate up based on revenue that we receive in the future. So that's what brings pause back and forth. Mr. Vice President.
So let's parse out the logistics if we don't vote for this tonight. How long would it take you guys to affect the transfer? Does someone from Bancorp South want to chime in about that? Oh, I guess
How long does it take to go through the process?
Go to the mic.
Because obviously we haven't done this in 30 years.
So that's what I'm saying.
Right, which is interesting in of itself.
Good evening. I'm Michael Booker with Bancorp South. And in opening accounts, we do that every day. So we can get accounts open in 2 or 3 days. If he can provide us information, we open accounts every day. It doesn't matter whether it's $7 million or $75 million. We can do transfers and get the accounts open at your pleasure.
Sounds like a man who wants our business.
I do.
All right. Well, Mr. President, with that being said, we're amenable, and as always, we'll ask that whatever those questions are, if you would please forward those questions, and we can look at attempting to address those.
Let's strike a balance, colleagues. I'm going to ask that you withdraw your motions in second. We table the item to the meeting on Monday, and we vote up or down at that point to give the administration the most amount of time to execute their process.
I guess
That'd be enough time.
no. As long as we get the questions
Right.
that cause the pause, and we can address those, and whether that's in committee or out of committee, we again would just like to be able to answer whatever the questions are.
Ms. Tillman?
Mr. President, this council being practically news, and this transaction hadn't been done years and years. It's a learning process for the new members, and the only way you can learn is we meet as a body and discuss, and everybody will learn the total process, not sending in a question to the administration. That's when we put things in committee, so the whole body can be there hearing the whole discussion, ask questions, input.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when we're asking the president to put it in committee.
So with the budget committee consisting of just all 7 council, well, all 5 council people, could we get a budget committee meeting this week?
Unless you want to, I mean, someone else can. I'm out of town tomorrow. Y'all can have a budget committee, and
Right, because I want to put it in committee and not be able to get a quorum, and I won't be able to get it out of committee because of those issues. So can we have a budget committee meeting tomorrow?
Okay.
No, we can't have a budget meeting.
I don't think that would do us any.
We can't do that tomorrow.
wouldn't
We can't do it. How about Thursday?
Use it all tomorrow.
How about
I think that we
Wait,
can do
wait.
it when the chairman is here, and I know that would be later in this month, but it's before the deadline.
all right, so next week is Christmas, so we can have a budget committee meeting next week?
I'm going to be realistic. I think, why don't we agree to table this, and we can get around and figure out when works.
Because what I don't want to happen is to have to vote on it December the 30th. I believe that's our next full council meeting. That doesn't give them the opportunity to execute the order on the 30th. Unless they can start pre-planning now. Definitely pre-plan now for the eventuality of such a scenario.
I don't think that puts them in a fair position. They can't start working before they get assurance that they get the work.
So